Man, I
Why
had
is
no
there?
choice but to touch the vaccine.
I don't understand how black people still vote for big government after they see the caricatures that they
I
make of
know,
them.
man. They're just shameless. They're shameless. But from what I understand, I mean, the statistics at least say that they're not convinced. So
Yeah,
good
a
for them.
majority of minorities have not got the vaccine.
Good.
Yeah. The only people that are getting the vaccine are the white liberals who are the
Right.
ones terrorizing BLM protests and things like that.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
those white lesbians that are throwing rocks at the front lines.
They're all about it. And then, and of course, there's the Karens. They'll get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, welcome to Reformgelical, everyone, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams, co-hosted by the great AD Robles. AD, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing great. I'm ready to dunk on people.
You gonna dunk?
Dunk on people. That's my one prop I got.
There you go. You're unpacking all your props, right? You're
That's right.
unpacking all
That's
your
right.
props. I like it.
Yeah. Someone asked me if I have new digs. I'm white. I don't. Does that mean like my new place? Is that my?
Yeah.
I trimmed my beard.
I think so. I think it means place.
Yeah,
Let
it's
me
a new
look it up on the
place.
Urban Dictionary.
Get official. I obviously have not moved in yet, and it's a mess.
According to the Urban Dictionary, digs are a place of residence. So it doesn't have to be a home. It could be a garage, a box, whatever.
Yes. Yes, new place. I've been here for about a month, I think. I feel like it's been a little longer.
There you go. Yeah, so you're unpacking. I get it. You got a lot to do.
Mm-hmm. I do. It's busy. It's been busy.
What does the Bible say? Good evening. Yep. There you go.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, just listen. If you have a slang word you need me to translate, I will gladly translate it for you. Don't worry.
Please. I mean, that's
I've got the Urban Dictionary up.
Right. We got to have some balance, and I need some
There
urban in my life.
Let me tell you something, Matt. This is I don't know if you've seen this because I think it was popular, but I hadn't seen it yet. It was called the Trayvon hoax.
Okay.
Have you seen this movie?
No.
It's really good. So it's a guy who was like he was interested in the governor election with Gillum and DeSantis, right? That was who DeSantis ran against. So that black guy Gillum,
right?
And man, you guys would have been screwed if he was your governor, no question about it.
Oh my!
But anyway, so Gillum, he would always say that he started running. He started getting interested in politics after Trayvon Martin.
Okay.
So he kept saying that. And so this guy, this like weirdo guy, he's just like a weirdo white guy, hilarious. He does this research project into Trayvon Martin. So he gets all the records from the court case. He goes through them all. And he realizes that, so he's going through all their text messages. So all of Trayvon's text messages, all of his girlfriend's text messages. And he realizes that he doesn't have a freaking clue what they're saying. So he bought this dictionary. And so he reads the words. It's just so it's really well done. It's super funny where he says it all, like even the N word, because he says that it doesn't mean, it means like homie or whatever. So it's really funny. And but the movie is actually really good because it goes into this tremendous hoax that the girlfriend of Trayvon, the one who basically got Zimmerman charged because of what she said, was not really his girlfriend. It was just a completely fake witness. A different person took the stand than was his real girlfriend.
Wow.
And he found the real girlfriend and, talked to her and stuff like that. And so it's just this massive, like, screw up. Mm-hmm. He didn't get convicted, but still, like, that's the reason why they even charged him, because of what his girlfriend says. Anyway, but it was a really interesting movie, The Trayvon Hoax. I recommend it.
Man, I bet there's tons of those types of stories that would be great movies just out there waiting to be told someday.
Absolutely. Well, and the point he makes in the movie is that the Trayvon hoax is essentially just the fake racism hoax. And so they just keep running the Trayvon hoax over and over and over again. They talked to George Zimmerman about, what had happened. It was just a straight up self-defense case. I mean, there's nothing weird about it at all. Mm-hmm. But it's just a really interesting movie. And when he reads the text messages going back and forth, it's just so funny because he's just this weirdo white guy reading like the text messages of a black teenager back and forth to each other.
That's so great. Oh man, I think that's so fun. When it can be done well, it can be really
It's done really well, in my opinion.
Really check it out. So we have a conspiracy theory segment today. But before we do, we have to pay a tribute to our conspiracy father of it all.
Oh, yeah.
This is a funny tweet Jack Posobiec put out. There I think it's
He must
once.
been
There
once.
once was a man who went around warning the government and scientists were harvesting baby organs, funding China to make a chimeric virus, and deploying federal agents for domestic plots, but all social media banned him 3 years ago. So a shout out to the great
Oh, man.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Look at his face.
I know, it's so great.
Looks like such a weirdo there.
Yeah. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I mean, this face is just worth going to YouTube on Reformed Jellicle and checking it out. But we do have a good conspiracy this time. I got to scroll up to it. This one is actually one I was going to share all by itself a couple of weeks ago, but we just didn't get to it. There is this science center, HARP. I don't know what is it.
Oh, I know all about HARP. Yeah.
Do you know about HARP? What do you know about HARP? I don't know anything about HARP.
They like electrify the sky.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have a facility up in Alaska, and they can project electromagnetic radiation. And I'm looking at this on a Zero Hedge article, which I found a bot that forwards Zero Hedge onto Telegram. And that was like the one account that I was really missing from Twitter, like not being able to see a Zero Hedge. So I'm very thankful for that. Good. Very good. But people have speculated, according to this article, I've never heard of them before, that they control the weather with these kinds of things.
Oh, and I've known about this for years. Yeah.
Really? Okay. So do you think there's
this.
Credence to it, or do you not think that, who knows what it does?
Listen, everything's on the table for me. Just want to let you know that at the outset. Everything is on the table for me.
Right.
However, I don't know too much about it, but it all seems pretty plausible.
Mm-hmm. Well, here, let me just share this screen again, and so we can see, like, there's like a whole facility, and then they have this electromagnetic, I don't know, whatever you would want to call it.
It's like this array that they set up.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so they are doing things, supposedly it's for weather and things like that. They're doing something with these electromagnetic rays, and we know that because they put out a warning to not fly around it. So they're doing something with the weather. And people are starting to speculate because they haven't been using it, and they started using it again. Let's see if there was a date on it. From June 17th, with beginning date of June 21st through the 25th, they were saying don't fly around this area.
Right.
And I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
This is the conspiracy theory that China is having unprecedented amounts of rainfall. Like, they've had 3 dams. I think it's 3. Maybe it's 2, and a third is about to collapse. But because of how much rainfall they're having massive floods that are destroying and killing tons of people. I don't know if you've seen these videos. Like, people
I've
stuck
seen
in
some of the videos.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder if this is like the next part of the warfare that we're seeing, whatever you want to call it, the unconventional warfare.
I have no idea. I've known about the idea of weather warfare for like probably 5 years, 10 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, honestly, if you could do something with the weather, that would be pretty powerful.
Yeah, and we're still seeing more hacks happening. We saw 3 ships get taken over from Iran this last week.
Who took them over?
Iran did. Iran took them over.
Whose ships were they?
I don't know. The shippers. I don't know if they were specific to one country, but I know they boarded one Israel. For sure.
I was getting ready to blame Israel.
Of course, you just blame Israel for everything.
I'm on Gab.
Just look on Gab.
I got to throw in some jabs.
Oh man, yeah.
That's quite a conspiracy theory, man. I like it.
I think it's interesting. The rainfall is unprecedented. It seems like we're gearing up to fight China, and then all of a sudden, this weather manipulation system has our enemy seeing unprecedented flooding, where dams are breaking and their infrastructure is flooding. I don't know.
Okay, but this is all, everything's all a mishmash, right? So all these conspiracies all like kind of fight each other, because wasn't China supposed to be the one that wanted Biden to win? So now Biden is wanting China to drown. I guess the same thing happened in 1984. They used to always just fake these wars against each other just to keep their people occupied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That was fiction, but
Yeah, and then it's also happening with Iran too, because Biden was saying he wanted to re-enter the agreement with Iran, but then there is pressure now for him to start putting sanctions on them again because of the hostilities that they're doing with these different ships. And it's like there's two different strategies happening at once with our government. It's really weird.
Here's a question. So let me ask you this: in like some of these countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all these Muslim countries, do the women who wear the burqas have to wear a mask under the burqa?
Oh,
there's something
definitely
for
when they started doing double masks.
Yeah.
Could you just wear a burqa on an airplane, or would they not accept that as a face mask?
Like, would they make you like kind of lift it up just to make sure you had the mask? Like you lift your burqa and you're like.
If we wore burqas to the Fight Laugh Feast conference on the airplanes, would we get out of not wearing a mask?
No.
No, we wouldn't.
I'm not going to try, but
like, man, that's a pretty bulky woman from Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
Yes.
I have a mask under the burqa.
Yeah. I wouldn't make it though, because I would end up ordering a scotch and then it would just throw the whole thing off.
What a weird state of affairs, huh? People wear. I got to say, you think last week you told me that more people are wearing masks. This week in New Hampshire, I've seen quite a few.
Have you? Yeah.
And it's just, I can't help but just have a little disgust every time I see a man wearing one. His little flip flops and just walking around like some kind of weirdo.
And the kids. Oh, the kids are the worst. They get me still all the time.
I haven't seen a kid in one in a long time, so that's good,
Really?
But I'm sure it's coming.
Oh, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I saw this one video of them doing a swab of the test of a little infant up their nose.
Oh,
like this much up the nose, and the baby's just crying, and it's horrible.
I want to cry when I get that.
Oh gosh, I just want to slap somebody when I see them.
I don't know if I'll ever do that test again, because I got that test with the flu before, like, so that was something I had before, but I don't know if I'll ever do that again. I don't want you touching them up there. If I have the flu, I've got the flu.
Yeah, my dad and brother actually have it. They just told me that today.
The flu or COVID?
Same thing. It's the same thing.
What's so funny
it's the Delta variant too.
What's so funny about this, and Wyman Taylor Bear here is, he was all over this a couple weeks ago, but
okay, it's
so funny that the theory started off, it's just like the flu. Who cares? Right. And everyone would be like, how dare you? It's not just like the flu. And it turns out it actually just is the flu.
Right. And they have no way of determining.
It's actually is it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so great. My favorite thing though, there's two favorite things in the pharmaceutical world regarding COVID. That's just got me. And I don't want to spend that much time on COVID today, but I mean, it's kind of a big deal. So now they've come out with booster shots because of the variant. But you have to ask, how did they come up with a booster shot that was effective against a variant that they just started talking about 2 weeks ago?
There's so many funny things like that.
There's so many funny things like that. And
just whipped it up. They just whipped it up.
Yeah. Abracadabra.
Get the Delta. By the way, you can get the Lambda variant probably next week.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's crazy, and people just don't even think about it. And yeah, okay, we'll just.
What's the numbers that they tell us of how many people have been vaccinated now? Was it like 50% of people?
They say 60? Around 50%. I feel like it's a little less. I think they're even lying about that.
I think so too. That's what I was about to say.
Because if the minority vaccination rate is around 20 or 30%. I don't see white people being that much farther from it. I mean, why would minorities not get it, but white people would? The only ones I see getting it is the white liberals.
Right. So, okay. So I think that probably there's more white people that have it. I don't know why. Yes. Maybe I'm just disparaging white people. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be like by a factor of 3 or something like that. It'll be more, but I don't think it's going to be much more.
Right. Yeah. And so no way it's around 50%. It's probably... man, if I had to get a good guess, I would say 45% most.
I think they're just lying about everything. Everything's a lie.
Oh, my goodness. It's such a lie. And something else that's funny about it. Gosh, I don't want to talk about this all the time, but I'm going to because these things are funny. There's that one country, Tanzania or something.
Okay. Tasmania.
or
Yeah.
No, not Tanzania. Gibraltar. Gibraltar. Gibraltar?
Is that
how
a
you say
country?
it?
I thought that was just a rock.
I don't know. Can you
Rock
look that
of
up in Urban
Gibraltar.
Dictionary?
Let me look it up.
How you pronounce it there. But they have 33,000 people, 99% vaccination rate. And they have increased their, let's see what it says. COVID cases per day have increased from 1 to 25 in a country of 20 to 33,000. Fully vaccinated,
Nice.
their cases are skyrocketing.
Yeah,
No.
it's all just nonsense anyway, right?
It's all nonsense, man. It's nonsense using to rob us of all of our freedoms. And we're just going along with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the part that's annoying. I mean, like, because, of course, we have the abilities to sort of, maintain our freedoms. But the thing is, like, our lives are going to be more annoying in almost every way. You know what I mean? Like, because initially, I wore a mask every now and then. Like, I would say I wore a mask in the beginning to maybe like October, let's say. So that's a significant amount of time. I would say I wore the mask maybe 50% of the time. Let's just to be as conservative as possible, right? And normally I would do it not because, like I felt like it did anything, but if it was like I was in a rush, right? I don't want to have a hassle with the kids or with somebody, no hassles, right? I basically did it just to avoid conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was alone, I never wore it because I didn't care about the conflict at the time, unless, again, I was in a rush. But now it's like, now that I know how much of a scam this is, and now that I know that they're just never going to be satisfied, it's always going to be something else. I can't think that way anymore. Like, I just have to not wear it, unless I absolutely need to be somewhere, like a hospital with my, sick friend or something. You know what I mean? Like something like that.
Right.
I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, you can't. It's not going to stop until we all stop doing it. And I'm kind of disappointed in us Americans, and we probably talked about this last week, but the protests going on across the world, just hundreds of thousands of people in tons of different countries, Australia, Paris, and all that stuff. And it's just not happening here. I mean, the least we can do is not wear our masks. All right. I want to talk about your interview that was supposed to happen on our show, but didn't happen on Monday.
Yeah.
It was very well done. It's very well done.
Well,
I did appreciate understanding why his mic was so much lower than yours and yours was loud. I finally got to see it from their perspective.
So now you know you need to pump up that gain on yours,
Now I understand.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
About the interview?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I said the next day that I was not prepared for just the wall of nonsense that I would get. Like, I didn't think he would, do the scattergun kind of approach, and I didn't want to just tell him to shut up. You know what I mean? Which I think in hindsight, maybe that's what was needed there, just for me to say, hey, listen, dude, you got to shut up. We got to do this one thing at a time. You know what I mean? So, like, I think if I had to do it again,
yeah.
What's that?
The B Rabbit definitely came out the first hour.
Oh yeah,
it's like a rap battle. He was,
No question about it. No question about it. So if I had to do it again, I probably would, interrupt him and stop him much more.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say though that my goal going in was for the contrast in our approach to be very clear. And what I was thinking it would be the contrast of my approach of going to the Bible and insisting on following it, versus his approach of feelings and, my friends say this and I want to be friends with them still, that kind of thing. Right. And I think that did come out clear. But what I didn't expect that also came out clear would just be the difference in just like he was hyper emotional the entire time.
He was very upset.
And I got emotional at 1 or 2 points, I would say. The one I kind of raised my voice when he thought he had me with my personal church situation. And, that kind of aroused all kinds of emotions in me because when I was doing it in the time with my co-elder, there was a lot of stuff and baggage there, So there was that. And then towards the end when I was talking about insulting God and stuff like that. But I think that one of the things, my brother kind of told me this, or maybe it was somebody else, said that it's interesting because he talks about charity all the time. But if someone were to watch that didn't know either of us, there is no way they would say he acted charitable.
Wow.
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
That's a really good point.
I acted charitable, even though I never talk about charity. So,
Yeah. I thought it was really good. I think the Vodi Bakum thing was lame. And it was like
Oh,
everything
man.
that he was saying, he was complaining about you about, and just made it
So- I didn't catch it at the time because I was just so taken aback that because that was a weird moment because, a lot of people from his perspective thought that and actually even a few people from our perspective thought that I lost the first hour, which maybe I did because I just wasn't ready for it. But he made so many weird points that I just had no idea, like insisting that I disavow Vodi for something I was unaware of. And he's just talking to me about it like as if, of course, I'm aware of it. I don't think he believed me that I was unaware of it. Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe.
But he's like, well, Neil agrees. And I was like, what are you talking? Who's Neil?
I was laughing so hard when he said that.
I didn't know. But of course, I do know Neil Shenvi, but he just said Neil.
Yeah.
So then,
you love him.
So
you love Neil.
So the point is, like, you're right. That little moment I didn't catch at the time because I was just so taken aback that he would insist that I, disavow someone I don't know what they did.
Right.
But that in that moment, he did everything he said that was wrong with what I do to Vodi.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I looked into the Vodi situation just a little bit because I haven't read the book yet. So I obviously need to read the book before I know what he's talking about. I can't believe how stupid people can be.
I know.
Like
except it's on purpose.
Yeah, well, I think some of them it's on purpose, but Vodi's the controversy with Vodi is so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing. It's just a nothing.
Right.
And even he said Neil admits it. I looked at what Neil said. Now that I know who Neil is, and Neil says basically, yeah, it doesn't look right. I mean, it's really not that big a deal, though. All he should do is offer a correction in the next volume, in the next edition.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's the controversy.
That's the agreeing. That's how far you can stretch someone's words to say that he agrees Vodi Bakum's a plagiarist by saying, you should make an update next.
Right.
I'm telling you, when a boy can be a girl with the leftist, man, anything can be anything. Just whatever's convenient for them. Yeah.
Well, it's really true. So that was pretty funny because you're exactly right. I mean, and there were so many examples of that where he would do, and sometimes within the span of a few minutes, he would do the very thing he told me that was bad that I did.
I love that you called him on that one part. That was so good. That was
when
so
he called
great.
me a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
That was so great because I was like,
offended, but
I don't even care.
Accuse me of.
Right. I don't even care. Like, that's the thing. I don't think it's wrong, which is why I have no problem doing it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But he said it was wrong. So even by his own standards, I mean, he hangs himself again and again and again. And the sad part is, though, that the Bible says that we should not judge. Judge not. It's one of people's favorite verses. But of course, it's not saying you shouldn't judge altogether. It says, you judge with right judgment. By the standard you use, you'll be judged. Right? Mm-hmm. So by his own standard, he's going to be judged by that standard, and he doesn't even see it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even see it. He'll never see it.
Yeah. And we should take this moment to denounce the Westboro Baptist Church and anything they've ever done.
That was another weird one. And in fact, I going back, I should have driven that point home because it's just so typical of this perspective where it's like, well, you never call out all the white racist pastors out there. And like, so name one. And immediately he talks about two people that they're against homosexuals.
Right.
Like, what does that have to do with anything? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Very weird. And so I did kind of go back to that point, but by the time I could have really driven it home, he was off in La La Land on something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was really hard. I think you did a really good job, honestly, with all things considered. The first hour, I don't know if I would have handled it any differently. I mean, maybe I would have been a little more angry and not so gracious like you are. But I mean, what do you do in those situations? And I think a lot of people saw it. So.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And even, there was a number of people who reached out to me from his perspective that that were just like, yeah, like I like him, but every time he talks to a conservative, this is how it goes. And it's just like,
so they're saying he's a liberal too by that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's no question he's a liberal. Obviously,
Of
he's a
course.
liberal.
Yeah.
And that whole thing too with the like, well, I don't believe in female elders. Like, okay, you got me on that one. But you know what I'm trying to drive at? Why not just be open? Like,
Right.
I don't have a position. Look, one time a friend of mine, and this is a friend. So if you're watching this, I'm not mad at you about this. We squashed this. But one time a friend of mine privately kind of said like I'm going to expose you for saying that we should stone people that are caught in homosexual affairs. And I got mad at him because it's like I'm not hiding that. I've never
Right.
hid that. You don't have to expose me. If you ask me, I'll tell you exactly what I think. I've said it on my channel freely. Like it's like nobody has to corner me into accepting my beliefs. Now look, I know there's some beliefs that I, you know, that probably would cause me problems if certain people knew about.
You're not going to
them.
lean in on the first conversation about it. with
Right. I'm
someone.
not leaning in the first conversation, right? But if I know what someone's driving, I'm not going to hide it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
so bizarre. Like to force someone to trap you into a belief that presumably you're okay with. Just very bizarre.
Yeah. Alan says definitely need a moderator for these chats. I honestly, there's only one time where I felt that I wish it was on Reformgelicals so there can be a moderator. But other than
What's
that,
that?
I really enjoyed it. I think there was a point or a portion of the time where you guys were kind of talking past each other with church disciplining somebody else, where I think you were focusing more on people's sin and
Sure.
obvious error and those kinds of things. And he was, to me, seeming like he was trying to make it about theology. Like
Sure.
he brought up you being a Calvinist. Like, I'm going to have fellowship with you, a Calvinist.
Right.
But so like, I'm going to be charitable. And then he had his quote, you know, where he's going to be charitable and
charitable in all things.
but like when we talk about putting someone through church discipline, we're not talking about because their eschatology is different than ours or because Calvinist versus Arminian. We're talking about actual sin and disobedience to the Bible and what you're preaching is actually sinful. Like those
Yeah,
those are the church discipline
the
issues.
the theology could come into play, but it would have to be pretty extreme. Like I would say, like, you know,
Like
an Arminian who's believing normal Arminian stuff and, you know, still believes that it's all of God and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing. But then there are some people that go all the way and they're like, you know, to the point where it's like, yeah, and like, you know, my faith is just totally praiseworthy, and I had my faith, and it's like, and they're the ones acting, and they're basically Pelagians. Yeah, that can come into play when it comes to church discipline, but that's not how it normally goes down. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Or if
so
I was as a Calvinist, I said, yeah, and God's totally responsible for sin, and He's a sinner because He makes people sin. Like if I went down that road, yeah, you could church discipline me for my theology.
Yeah, I think there's and I was trying to think about this because I was going down those same route in my mind. Like there's some theology that becomes sinful,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
But there's the things that we debate about that we're not saying we're not going to be charitable about.
Of course.
Credo, baptism, and those kinds of things. Well, hopefully we're not. But
Yeah.
that's not the point of what we're talking about here. We're talking about people preaching hatred of your brother and those kinds of I don't know, sermons and those kinds of statements and those kinds of things. It's not just something you can be charitable about because it's actual sin and you're tolerating sin. And so I just like wish that like that would have been more clarified or I guess maybe tossed up for you guys to attack instead of it being just like, oh, we just have difference of opinions. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about sin.
Yeah. And you know, Wyman Taylor Bear here is got a good point, you know, regarding the women pastors thing and being a liberal. And again, it's like, you know, what I was hoping would come through is that my perspective is if your position is what the Bible says, then you're good. And if it's not, then you're not good. Like it's just that simple, right? And yeah, maybe we can interpret things slightly differently, but we have to actually be holding ourselves up to that standard. What was so interesting about Ruslan when he finally admitted what he actually believes about that, after I had to question him like 4 or 5 different ways. When he finally admitted it, he says, well, I'm not liberal because, you know, in the grand scheme of all the people in the world and all of history, you know, it's more conservative than that. It's like, so you can see he kind of like puts himself in this thing where he looks at all the people around and what they believe. And he's like, he's kind of fixing his position according to the star of all the people in history. And that's the wrong place to fix your positioning. You need to be looking at the scripture to guide what you're believing. And this is the standard liberal approach. They go to the Bible already knowing what to believe. And what they do is they find the verses that make it justifiable. and they find the arguments that make it justifiable. That's what everyone does when they have a friend or a son that becomes gay, and all of a sudden they have a good excuse to find the verses in the Bible that affirm homosexuality. They do the same thing. And their stories always start the same. It's not like I was reading the Bible one day and I just realized that gayness is totally cool. No, it's I had a friend that came out that I know loves the Lord who's a homosexual. And so I went back to the scriptures and I rediscovered, like that's the liberal approach.
Yeah, right.
You go there looking for something specific, and God is good, man, because he gives, he will let you hang yourself with the scriptures. He will allow you to go there and then justify it based on a misinterpretation of what he said. Mm-hmm. So it's just like he's good because it's not like he's let me see how I should say this, but if you reject him, he'll let you do whatever, he'll just release his hand of restraint, and all of a sudden the passages that condemn homosexuality actually support it. You know what I mean? I don't really know how to put this, but what I'm thinking.
Yeah. No, you'll bend the scriptures to whatever you wanted to say.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason you wanted to say it.
Yeah.
It's very typical. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, you're just exactly right. Any topic, they do it the same way every single time.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Jamie says, why is it that Russell started out nice with Marcus Pittman and got aggressive near the end, but he did the opposite with AD? It's because Marcus Pittman didn't do B Rabbit. Let's be honest.
That's so true.
That was the sole reason he was upset about. And because he tried to address it and say that it wasn't, he was like trying to diminish your like comparison. It would have been better if
Malibu's Most Wanted. I don't even know what that is, to be honest, but
no, it's a Jamie Kennedy movie. It was pretty funny. It was like what was it? He went to Malibu. He was like this total what did they used to call him back in the day? Wiggers. The white people. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it was so
like pretty fly for a white guy.
Yeah, exactly. It was that guy. But yeah, that's why he was mad in the beginning with AD. He got mad over time with Marcus, I imagine.
Yes. So no, that's so true. And so the B Rabbit thing, he was obviously very upset about. But it's so hypocritical because, he'll do the voices for things and for people and for stuff like that and for Southerners. Like, it's so hypocritical. One thing I've noticed about liberals, this is not just him, this is about all liberals, is they have this idea in their mind that when they're talking about groups of people, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're not really allowed to do it if it's about an individual. So somehow the group makes it okay to make stuff up. You know what I mean? And then they say that so he'll have the fundamentalist voices, he'll have the Southerner voices. That's okay. But if I say that he sounds like B Rabbit, that's wrong because it's an individual. Where does this come from the Bible? I just don't understand where it comes from. The co-elder that was in the controversy with me, this was his big problem too. It was like talking to him again. And his whole thing, because this is the weird part about this whole controversy, Matt. You don't know a lot about that specific controversy, but when we preach, we would share the preaching duties at our church.
Okay.
I never really called people out from the pulpit because my approach on preaching is you read the word and then give the sense of it. I will make applications occasionally, but really I'm just trying to give the sense of it, right? So it's very rare where I would call anybody out. But this guy who told me it was wrong to call any brother out, he couldn't do ministry with me because I would call brothers out. This guy's blasting Southern Christians all the time, blasting evangelicals left and right. Every sermon is like that with them. And it's like, I didn't have a problem with it, but it's like a little consistency, like right. not naming someone, but saying things about a group when we all well know you've got people in your head that you're thinking of. It doesn't make it okay if it's wrong.
No, it's far worse, in my opinion.
It's actually worse, right?
It's far worse because you're shaming the whole group for one person's sin, if it is a sin at all.
Right.
And you're not being loving and productive and trying to benefit the person by calling them out.
Yeah.
The reason you call somebody out is that they would repent and that others would see it and not do the same things. And when you don't name the names and you do groups, you're bringing the guilt on the group. And you're not going to help with driving repentance if the person really does need to repent.
Absolutely. And it doesn't allow there to be any reconciliation, because how can a group actually even know what the offense was that you're thinking of? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
if you name a person and it turns out like with my stuff with Ruslan, my 12 videos that I did on him, someone can go to the videos and then go to his stuff and then make a decision if I represented him right or not. Sometimes I probably did, and sometimes I didn't, and you can make your decisions. But when you're just slamming, I don't know, Southern Christians, Southern Christians, but there's no way to check.
Right.
You could say anything. They're like, yeah, they hate the Muslims, and like, yeah, well, maybe some of them do, but what are you talking about though? What percentage are you saying hate Muslims?
Right. Yeah.
So it's a scam, and it's a way, honestly, it's a way to slander people, because a lot of times what ends up happening is, yeah, sure, you'll find someone that hates Muslims, right? And then you can connect him with like these weird, rabbit trails, and all of a sudden, like, someone who knows him also knows Tom Askell, so see, Tom Askell hates Muslims too.
Right.
That's what they're really going for. That's a sin, man. That's actually a sin.
Yep. And like the Rachel Denhollander, like, how many times are they constantly accusing the church of being this like sexual, I don't know, like this abusive sexual like place that fosters
predators,
it,
all that
predators
stuff,
and all of this stuff. I like, maybe she's named names, but I don't know. But so you say it over and over again, and then it's just believed that everyone in the SBC and everyone in the Christian church obviously is sexual predators. And that's the image you get instead of addressing individual cases, which I hope she has. But, that makes me wonder, has she ever said anything about the FBI and all their sexual exploitations yet, or the government? I wonder, has she said anything about Cuomo?
What about Biden pinching that little girl in
her
the chest?
nipple?
Unreal.
Yeah. This little, what he's referring to is there's prepubescent. Is that how you say it? Prepubescent.
She was like 8.
She was like 8. And there was a video of him going around and reaching around her, like putting his arm around her, and then grabs her nipple. And people speculated that's what happened, but it was just too obvious for people to believe that's what happened. It was
right, because like it was on C-SPAN.
It was on.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Why would he be so brash to just grope an 8-year-old on C-SPAN? So that's why people denied it.
That's why people denied it. Yeah, and I'm like, there's no way. Come on, there's no way to an 8-year-old. But I mean, that was pre-red pill, obviously. And on TikTok, I think it was last week, she came out, that girl who's now older, said, "Yep, you did it." Yeah. So creepy, man. So gross.
Then she deleted the tweet.
Did she really?
I think she deleted it afterwards. Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame her.
I think she even deleted her whole account. Yeah. So they obviously got to her.
I wouldn't have said anything if I was her. I wouldn't have brought that.
Freaking ridiculous, man. But anyway, so the bottom line though is that it's just the double standards were just on massive display, which was so funny because that was his like primary attack that was going to be for me, that I have double standards because I don't talk about other kinds of injustices, and because I didn't say anything about voting.
Yeah, just like a liberal projection, man.
Oh man, that voting thing had me rolling on the inside. I was just like, what in the world what is he talking about?
Yeah, I know. He was on Founders today. If anyone wants to go see him and Tom and Jared on the Founders podcast, Sword and Trowel, they talk about it.
About the plagiarism?
Yeah.
What did he say? Did he say, I plagiarized, I know it, I'm so sorry?
He admitted it. He's stepping down from all his ministry. No, I'm just kidding. No, he was he was paraphrasing sections where he wasn't direct quoting him. He was saying what his position was and kind of illustrating it, but not direct quoting him. So he wouldn't quote him. But then he quoted him in other parts where he quoted him in the book. And so like he said, maybe there was parts where I could have been clearer.
Right.
But I mean, I was framing his position, not quoting him directly. So.
Well, I mean, that's what if you weren't going to make commentary on the quote, I mean, why not just reprint the original work? I mean, why write a book at all if that's what you're expected to do?
You could make a sermon of it. Apparently, it's okay with liberals.
Yeah, the whole thing is nonsense. I read the Joel McDermott article, and he's very upset about it. Who cares? And then I read the Shenvi thing, and then I saw John Harris did a couple of comments on it. And, I kept thinking to myself, surely there's got to be more than this. And maybe there is. I don't know. But I know that Ruslan didn't have more than that when he told me I must condemn him.
Right. I mean,
I was trying to
yeah,
bait. I tried to bait Ruslan twice, and one of them was very obvious. One of them was very
Right.
not obvious.
Uh-huh.
The one that wasn't is when I started off the interview by asking him why he wasn't on Gab, and I was hoping that he would say something about anti-Semites or something like that,
Uh-huh.
because I was going to zing him on Twitter and stuff like that. But he didn't. He didn't even know what Gab was. At least that's what he claimed.
That's kind of incredible. How do you not know what Gab is at this point?
I kind of believe it though, because listen, this guy's all over all the social media, so you don't really have a lot of time to just be looking into random stuff.
That's true. That's true.
He's got to be on that Insta,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a good one. Couldn't you also say that you did 12 videos on Marcus Pittman?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
that
could
was
say
so
that.
stupid too, because yes, of course you could say that.
Yeah.
And I've done, large numbers of videos on people that I don't like, people that I like. So it's just a whole crazy thing, right? It's just insane. He's not the only one who's referenced the amount of videos to try to like make it seem like I was obsessed with him. Very weird, very vain thing to do. But anyway, it's so stupid because later on in the video, he tried to make it seem like I'm just dunking on people, just like he's just a liberal. Who cares? We don't even talk to him. And it's like, well, okay, one of those things doesn't kind of add up though, because if I'm just dunking on you, like I wouldn't have done 12 videos explaining why you're just an amateur when it comes to this kind of theology. Which I guess I'm technically an amateur as well, so I can't say that.
Yeah.
But he's just
It's not even an insult. It's just a fact.
It's a fact. He's just not that good at theology in these areas. So like I spent 12 videos doing that. So it's either that makes me obsessed or I'm just dunking or neither. It could be neither.
Yeah. I think your next video should be called 12 videos.
12 videos of Ruslan
and social justice.
Yeah, man.
But cross it out and say on liberals.
Pissed. So someone was super pissed that I made the video after the conversation. He said, "You guys got such goodwill, and now you just threw it all out the window." I was like, "What are you talking about? If this throws goodwill out the window, there was no goodwill."
Yeah. Wait, you can't talk about how the discussion went in a future video?
I'm obviously not going to agree to not do videos on things I want to.
Right.
So,
you would never have done
ridiculous.
an interview in the first place, or a discussion, or whatever you want to call it.
Debbie
That's crazy.
Mason has a good comment here. Like, what was the deal with the pay-per-view? He was into that. He wanted to do pay-per-view.
It's all about the money, man. You got to save up for the reparations.
That's true, man. I mean, we got to make that money.
He's got to make that money. But so people are saying it's frustrating that he refused to actually converse. And then people are saying, yeah, it was like a barrage of words followed by 80 calmly responding. I honestly, though, think that is probably one of the most clear evidences for people who follow him that maybe have not seen AD or known AD. Like, those are the things more than I think the actual arguments that are going to persuade people that maybe they should think outside of just what Ruslan's saying.
You think? I agree. I agree.
I very few, like, I was watching the chat. I watched it live. And very few people in the beginning of that first hour were defending Ruslan for how he was behaving. Very few.
Yeah.
Like one or two out of, you guys had like 700 people watching.
That was crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that was great. And thank you for the 33 watching us right now.
Please,
please
I like that. It's a good number.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. I like our little.
Yeah,
community.
a couple people, and maybe even some people in the chat right now said this to me, but a couple people said to me, Ruslan came for a fight and you came for a conversation, which is so funny because his reputation is the opposite. And some people think my reputation is the opposite, that I'm just looking for a fight. And so again, the contrast could not be more clear. Like, sure, it's real easy to talk about charity. You got to have a conversation, all that stuff. But it's very different to actually engage in it and do it and to do that stuff. I would argue that probably the more someone talks about charity and all things, the less charitable they typically actually are. They're trying to convince themselves almost.
Yeah. It's like the anti-racist people. I'm not racist. Racist is the biggest problem in the world.
Every conversation like that I've ever had, the person walks away thinking, oh, wow, that went way better than I thought it would. It's like, maybe I have this reputation. I don't know. But I feel like I'm a pretty reasonable guy. And I'm
pretty squish, man.
Yeah. If he was talking to you, you would have been screaming and yelling like a lunatic.
Yeah, it would have went really different. It would have been really different. Debbie, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, that was so funny, the Jerry Falwell thing. So, I didn't look when Jerry Falwell was doing his thing. I wasn't even a Christian back then, right? But I knew about him because he was a popular man.
Yeah.
So that whole thing with do you believe that do you agree with Jerry Falwell that God was judging us for the gays?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know what he said, so I can't say I totally agree with Jerry Falwell, because if he said that, God spoke to me and he told me, like, I'm obviously not going to agree with that.
Right.
But of course God judges, like, don't you agree that God judges nations for homosexuality? Like, that's a basic one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so he thought he had me, but like, I'm fine admitting that. Like, again, you don't have to corner me. I'll tell you what I believe. Yes, God judges nations for rampant homosexuality.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, that he was kind of taken back that you just own that after talking to Marcus for however long he talked to Marcus. Like,
he was.
Don't you get it? They're not making apologies about the Old Testament. I'm sorry.
Oh man. Oh yeah, and that was the other thing. Wyman Taylor Bear, he actually emailed me about this later as well, and a lot of people actually messaged me about this too.
Okay.
Where he consistently was trying to make it seem like all I was doing was trying to get clicks on YouTube, right? Because he can't, and it was a backhanded compliment every time. Just like, oh yeah, it's so good for the YouTube. Right. I never addressed it because in my mind, like, I've got to pick and choose what to address here, right? Because he said, like, every time he said it, it was in the midst of like 20 other things, right? And so I was really trying to focus on things not personal to me. I was trying to focus on, the more important, the weightier matters. Like, you can insult me, but the weightier matters are what we're actually talking about, right? So I was tempted to go into that, but dude, that is so ridiculous when you just take one scroll at his YouTube channel versus mine.
Right.
And you look at how he does all of the stupid YouTube, thumbnail things that you're supposed to do. He sells classes on how to be successful in YouTube. Like, it's just like, it just boggles the mind that someone could have such a lack of self-awareness.
He brought a soundboard to the interview and was playing sound effects on your channel.
Right. I wouldn't even know how to start doing such a thing.
I've never seen that.
Like again, like this, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when Matt Hall, the provost of Southern Seminary, was throwing shade at John Harris's way. Did you ever watch that video? He was doing a speech, and he said he was doing a speech, and he didn't name him because they never do.
Right.
But he said, and he'll be more than happy to share with you his Patreon and like that kind of thing, trying to throw shade like he's just doing it for the money. As he sits there in his $300 suit, or $3,000 suit, in a hall that was built by the money of every little old lady in the Southern Baptist Convention, probably makes a salary 3 times what John makes on YouTube, or probably way more than that. I'm not trying to throw shade John's way. I'm not trying to insult the man, but John's a pretty normal guy. It's just the hypocrite. Like, they have no self-awareness. Like, your whole career, your whole existence is on the backs of you asking people for money. And you're trying to use that as to throw shade someone's way. That makes no sense at all. I'm not embarrassed to do things that I think will be good for the algorithm. I admit that. But to make it seem like that's my big problem. Right. Like, it's not even a problem. Yeah, of course. No. Someone else tried to do that to me. Another liberal was insulting me by saying I was playing to my audience. I was like, yeah, I make the videos for the audience. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But anyway, but again, any impartial observer looks at my channel versus his channel is like, well, who's doing things for the algorithm?
Right. Yeah.
It's not me. Although it is just not as good, not as well.
Yeah. Like, honestly, though, his stuff is great. I mean, as far as the production value,
it is.
I think it's fantastic. But then
I would never even think to use that as an insult, though. I just right. Why would that be an insult?
Yeah.
It's just so weird. It's very petty, which is how I was like, it was a very personal thing for him, and it really wasn't for me.
Right. I know. It was great. I loved it. I thought, again, I thought everything was great. Didn't need to change anything except for that one point. Thought it was fantastic. I want to talk about for those people who are employed with a corporation and are worried about getting the vaccine. And I think this is a great conversation for us to have because you do recruiting. You're in this HR industry. And I shared with it a little bit before we went on the show There's actually these two other podcasters that I've listened to from time to time. They cover the election audits and fraud and things like that. I don't think they're Christians. There's Nick Moseder and Neil Johnson. They were having a conversation, and he shared one of the things they were saying, they were talking to each other about, was that there is this extreme shortage of labor, that businesses are having a really hard time finding qualified workers. And I know that for a fact. I'm sure you do too, right? Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
100% true. And so when they come to you and say you must get the vaccination to travel, to come into the office, to do what your normal job, or to get hired, or those kinds of things, maybe not so hired in this case, but just like if you already work there. And one of the things they were saying is because of this labor shortage and the people aren't working, this is a great opportunity to band together and make us stand together. And I just thought, man, that is a fantastic idea and wanted to share.
100%.
Don't you think that's a great idea too?
I think it's a great idea because the reality is that look, if your company is one of these companies that's going to be doing the vaccine mandate, there's chances are there's a lot of people that feel just like you that don't want to do it, right? And so I think you should throw your weight around, man. I really do. And you might end up getting fired, but there's a lot of opportunities that will open up through you being fired in that way. And I don't just mean like other jobs. I mean like if you're litigious, there's probably litigation possibilities opening up there.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of different things that you can do, but definitely do not get coerced into taking this shot. If you're not into it, don't take it.
Yes.
There's things that you can do, man. People will help you out. They will. And this is going to put people in tough positions. But if you band together, look, there is a work shortage, man. Look, if they want to disadvantage themselves out there, there's going to be plenty of companies that will be glad to have people that are probably, in their opinions, have enough integrity to say no when they don't want to do it, right?
Well, and they're desperate for workers. I mean, there's people desperate for workers. So, I mean, there's going to be people wanting to hire you. And
And honestly, it doesn't even matter really what the skill set is. Like, low skilled workers, there's people wanting to hire high skilled workers, which is what I recruit in. There's not enough people. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm about to lock up, God willing, another retainer deal with a company that I just did a retainer deal earlier this year for like 10 positions because they just cannot figure out how to find these people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's going to work well, man. That's going to work well.
Yeah, it's going to work. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
For the support, sir. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You will not have to pay reparations. Just consider that your reparation. Go sin no more. Don't feel guilty. No, thank you. Seriously though, for that. But going
all
back
that goes to my account, Matt. So I'll have to bring it. I'll have to bring it to the conference, and take you out to dinner or something.
Yeah. Yes. There we go. You can buy me drinks. But the thing, just even in a normal times, though, you have to realize how much it costs an employer to hire somebody new. Like, it is not a small thing, and big businesses really do know it. And the big businesses are probably going to be ones that are mandating more than the smaller businesses.
Definitely. And the other thing, too, you got to think of this. Even those people who do want to get the vaccine are going to be pissed because all of a sudden a bunch of people are going to get axed. Where does that work doesn't go away? So it's going to go on to them. And the managers, think about the managers. Like, it's so hard to hire people as a manager. And then you have, like, because managers have to do their regular job and also hire. So it's a disaster. So imagine if in your group, let's just say it's a 10-person group, let's say, and there's 4 of you that don't want to get the vaccine. The other 6 do. That's going to be a world of hurt for that manager. There's no question about it. And so maybe he won't say anything right away, but there's going to be problems there. So this is the time to stand together with you. Find people. I don't know where you're going to find them if it's a huge company, but you got to find them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like you in your company.
And most likely the people you hang out with think just like you because you probably have relationships with people that you get along with. They most likely are probably thinking similar to you. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find people that you go out to lunch with, that you hang out with the break room, you send out feelers. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to start acting like the left does on so many different things. It's such an easy win. Yeah. I'm seriously, like you said, like if just a department, like if the marketing department just one day just decided, like maybe there's like 15 of you, 20 of you, and you were all just came together and they didn't have a marketing department.
Absolutely.
There's no way they would fire you.
This is, maybe I'll do a video on this tomorrow.
You
Try
should.
to do something. Try to do something that'll catch that algorithm. Dog. Yeah, yeah. But what I'll do is, because this is the thing. Like, did you read the recent article about Blizzard, Activision Blizzard?
No.
Okay, so Activision Blizzard, they make video games, right? They make Call of Duty, they make World of Warcraft, games like that.
I grew up next to their headquarters.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the state of California sued them, huge lawsuit for being sexist because they only have 25% women, which is probably a lot considering the software engineers are much less
Nerds.
women.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So, and apparently there's a wage gap, it's probably fake. And apparently that they never get promoted, and apparently that they get sexually harassed all day, every day, but somehow they still work there. I don't know. Whatever. It's all nonsense, probably.
Right.
So the company comes out and denies it because that's what you have to do when you're the company, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's probably not true, but also you just have to deny it immediately. So the company denies it, and everyone at the company staged a walkout.
Really?
Not because they're sexist, but because they denied it.
Uh-huh.
They said you need to be more considerate and accept the charges.
What?
So the company that they work for that makes the video games, and they said they walked out, right? And so the company instantly caved. They gave them like a day off to protest them. The company gave their employees a day off to protest the company. So anyway, I'm serious. So if the pagans can do that and think about it, and the lawsuit alleged that the men at the company, they don't do any work. Like they just party, they come in drunk, and the women are doing all the work, even though they're making no money. That's what the lawsuit alleges. It's the most ridiculous thing. But those men that were alleged in the lawsuit to just be drunk all the time, sexually harassing the women, walked out. They staged a walkout. So if the pagans can do walkouts for something so stupid as a sexual harassment allegation by the state, not even by a person, just state. I think we can organize something, maybe not quite as, it doesn't have to be as elaborate for this. Like they want to stick you with something that you don't want to be stuck with.
Yeah.
It's a lot more serious.
A lot more serious. And it's such an easy victory. I mean, the chances of success on this is as high as any other protest you're ever going to have. Like, this is the perfect environment to make a stand because these companies are so susceptible and vulnerable to labor shortages right now.
Yep.
If you're not going to do it for this, you're not going to do it for anything, basically.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, guys. You're probably going to keep your jobs. And worst case scenario, if you don't, you will be snatched up so quickly, and you'll probably end up getting more money, and you'll probably end up getting a better situation.
Yeah. And if there's a group of you to get fired, there's going to be a lawyer looking to take that suit up for sure.
Absolutely. And from what I understand, the great thing about lawsuits like that is that you don't typically have to pay them up front.
Yeah. And it's really hard for the company to say it wasn't for the reason that you're claiming when it's all five of the people or whatever.
That it's obviously, exactly. Right. It's all five of the people that said the same thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's crazy, man. It's, again, they want you to think that all companies have lost their minds like this. They haven't. There's plenty of companies that have no intention of doing this vaccine nonsense. And the reality is that even if your company is so self-destructive and stupid that they will cut themselves off at the knees, which I don't think they are, but even if they were, plenty of companies will be licking their chops for people that have a little bit of integrity like you with your skill set, and they'll be all over it. And plus, with remote work these days, it doesn't matter even if it's in your area.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the greatest things about why rural areas are starting to grow so fast is just being able to remote. But I will say this is kind of just anecdotal. Like even these big liberal companies like Costco, headquarters in Washington, they're, as liberal as they come up there. And in Florida, before the CDC came out and did their mask mandate, but the governor gave an executive order that there no longer were a requirement. You couldn't mandate masks. They were still doing mask requirements at Costco. This time, though, after the couple weeks now where the CDC recommended it again, they haven't required it. They're still allowing people. So these companies aren't going to just toe the line no matter what. They are needing money. Like, these people will get fired if they don't make profits. If their company collapses because a third of the workforce walks out and says, I'm not getting vaxxed, they're not going to keep their jobs. It's not like the government in any sense.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I was so glad when I saw that, Matt, and I was hoping we'd get to it because that's a very positive message, which, that's good.
Yeah.
Plus, it's something that you can definitely do. Like, it's not going to be that, especially if there's a group of you, find the group, however it is you have to do it, find that group. If you don't want to get the shot, don't get it, number one, no matter what, even if you can't find the group. And if you don't want to. And number two,
just don't get it.
Find the group. Yeah, Matt's a little more hardcore than me.
Yes,
I'm not telling you what to do with your own body, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
Matt says just don't do it.
I would rather get a shot of the COVID.
Just
I would. Honestly, I would rather get a shot of the virus than the vax.
I'm not I'm not going to lie to you. 100%. I would rather have that.
Isn't that weird that you could say that? Who would ever say I would rather take a shot of polio than the polio vaccine?
I would rather someone just cough in my mouth than get the that. Oh man.
Oh, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching us on the Fight Laugh Feast channel, you can watch us live stream this show on YouTube and Twitter as long as they have us. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time Thursdays. Love to have you here. Thank you for everyone who does watch us live streaming. It's a great time having you guys here and adding to the show. We'll talk to you next time. God bless.
God bless. I'm not even. I hope you're not kidding. I'm not kidding.
I'd rather get the Rona.